Hello and welcome to today's video. Today, let me just get my microphone so I sound a little bit better for you. Just stick this in. So hopefully we have better audio now. Let me know if you like my audio better. Oh, I should put my collar down. Joanna just gave me a massage. I've got a bit of a trigger point. So today we're talking about SIBO. We're talking about small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And there was a little side note of people being interested in IMO, intestinal methanogen overgrowth. So this is such a big topic. This is one of the topics that's quite difficult to talk about because you have to look at root cause if you want to find resolution for this. So let's rewind all the way back. What is SIBO? SIBO is an acronym that stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. IMO is an acronym that stands for intestinal methanogen overgrowth. And I despise these descriptive labels, these diagnoses, because they give you a really warped perspective on the solution to this problem. So as soon as you hear the word overgrowth, the immediate solution that comes to mind is to kill, is to remove whatever is overgrowing, be that with antibiotics, be that with herbals, be that with whatever it is you want to use to kill whatever's overgrowing. And I think this is the flaw in this approach. This is why I think that the statistic is something like 60% of people that have SIBO have treatment-resistant SIBO. And when they follow their course of treatment, either it doesn't improve their symptoms or the symptoms come back within 6 to 8 weeks. And this is because we're missing a fundamental part of understanding what SIBO actually is. And when we miss that part, we miss the associated part of treatment. So the first thing I'm going to say is you will never heal a SIBO until you understand the root cause of your illness. And the root cause is never, SIBO is never a root cause. SIBO is always, without exception, an adaptive response to your environment. So there's a few reasons that this happened. This can be because of imbalances in the microbiome. This can be because of toxin exposure. This can be because of lack of digestive power. There's a handful of different reasons that can perpetuate a SIBO type situation. And unless you resolve this root cause, the SIBO will remain present or it will come back. And you want it to, because it's an adaptive response. So the body is always trying to find homeostatic balance. It's always trying to give you the highest levels of functionality, of health, of vitality, of energy, of creative and authentic self-expression in the environment that you currently live. And it does this by adapting its process. So if you've got toxins in your environment that certain bacteria are good at breaking down, your body will employ these organisms in the small intestine to break these toxins down for you. That's an adaptive response. So yes, you now have the symptoms of SIBO, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, digestive upset, food intolerances, which is bad, but your body is using these organisms as an adaptive response to help you survive the toxic exposure you're being exposed to. So with this toxic exposure in mind, yes, you're having the symptoms of SIBO, but you're having less of the symptoms of this toxicity. And this toxicity is what is actually going to kill you, and this is what's actually causing like serious disease, like multiple sclerosis, like cancer. So in this case, SIBO is a lesser evil. It's an adaptive response. It's your body trying to survive in the environment that it's in. And when you kill SIBO in this case, you're destroying your body's natural adaptive response to keep you as functional in the environment that you currently are. And when you do this, surprise, surprise, you feel bad. You feel worse for it. And this is why when people are treating things like SIBO with antibiotics and antimicrobials, they feel bad. It's not because you're going through a Herxheimer reaction. It's not because you're experiencing die-off. It's because you're destroying your body's natural coping mechanism, its natural adaptive response to try to keep you healthy in the environment. When you destroy that adaptive response, yeah, you may get some symptom relief of that acutely, but it's going to make you feel worse in general because now your body isn't able to adapt in the smart way that it was trying to to adapt. So root cause is forefront of my mind anytime somebody says SIBO. And this is why the standard treatment model of antibiotics, antimicrobials, even taking it a step further, and let's look at the gut from a 5 pillars perspective. So 5 pillars is a course I have about gut health. It's all about understanding how the gut functions, why it breaks, what's happening mechanically in this situation where it breaks, and how we can support it to regain that function. So taking this a step deeper, so looking at what's happening in the gut that can actually cause a SIBO type situation, I'm going to look at it from a 5 pillars perspective, because the 5 pillars are the 5 primary functions of the digestive system distilled into this program. And that's why I built the course this way, because the gut is vastly complex, but it has 5 primary functions that if we understand and look at in this context, we can get a really good idea of 80 to 90% of the gut function. And if we can fix and improve this 80 to 90%, you can improve your symptoms 80 to 90%. So this is the bang for your buck. This is where you make these changes, and that's where you see significant improvements in problems. Karen says, so we've got a comment here from Karen Simmons. She says, I actually think of MS as an adaptive response, but I can see there is a hierarchy of illness. You're absolutely right. Every single symptom, every single health condition is an adaptive response. And you're absolutely right, there's a hierarchy. So MS and MS and cancer, severe autoimmune problems, those are on the right at the edge, right at the end of problems. But then before that, you've got leaky gut, digestive problems, IBS, SIBO, things like that. So it's you've got layers of this onion that you can resolve. But if you keep trying to treat the MS or the cancer out here, and you're not working on the gut function in here, and you're not working on the root cause over here, it doesn't really resolve itself, because you're only treating where the symptoms are presenting. So understanding the 5 pillars is a good step towards getting closer to the root cause of these problems. So I'm going to elaborate on these a little bit more now. So these are the primary functions of the digestive system. If one of these is not functioning as it should, you are predisposed to having SIBO, because these functions keep the right balance of the right type of organisms in the right place in the digestive system. So I'm covering this briefly. As I said, I have a whole course on this. I don't want to repeat the things I've already said in the course, but for the sake of giving you some elaboration today, we've got strong stomach acid, and you've probably heard of these, right? If you've heard of SIBO or these kind of problems, you're probably going to be aware of these 5 pillars, and you're going to say, okay, this is really cool, this is how they fit together. So you've got stomach acid, you've got digestive enzymes, you've got thin, non-viscous, non-toxic bile, you've got a strong, powerful, coordinated motility, and you've got an impenetrable mucosa. So this is the gut mucosa, the gastrointestinal hyperpermeability, leaky gut kind of situation. So if you have one of these 5 things off, you are more than likely going to you either have SIBO already, or you're going to develop SIBO at some point, because one of these 5 functions of the digestive system isn't functioning properly. In the case of 4 of these, so stomach acid, digestive enzymes, bile, not motility, but mucosa, in the case of those 4, excluding the mucosa, these 4 functions actually have a strong level of mechanical digestive function. So the stomach acid breaks things down, it binds minerals so you're able to absorb them. Digestive enzymes speed up the digestive process. Bile helps you digest and absorb all of the fatty nutrients, the fat-soluble substances. And the mucosa is responsible for absorbing these substances, and it also has a lot of brush border enzymes present on it. So if you're missing any of these, you're going to lose the ability to digest some of the food that you're eating. And as an adaptive response, the body moves microbes higher up in the digestive system so they can do this job for you. You can see it's adaptive. And if your problem is one of these 4, for example, say you have low stomach acid, and the SIBO is there as an adaptive response to help you break down proteins that you aren't digesting properly. Once you reinforce this stomach acid pillar, you're now digesting the protein properly, and the adaptive response of the SIBO goes away. You don't need the SIBO there anymore, and it disappears by itself without treatment. You don't need to kill it because it's adaptive. And when the adaptive response is no longer necessary, it goes away by itself. So this is this is the benefit of treating closer to the root cause. When we understand the gut, how the gut functions like physiologically, and we support those physiological functions, whenever there's a dysfunction that we've now supported, the adaptive response to that dysfunction disappears. And this is what SIBO is in every single case. I have not worked with a single SIBO client that didn't have a weakness in one of these 5 pillars. So in a SIBO, it's more often 2 or 3 of these pillars or all of them. For me, with my SIBO, SIFO, IMO kind of problems, it was all 5 without question. I had a problem with all of them. And this happens in like multi-systemic collapse, chronic fatigue syndrome, MS, 4+ autoimmune conditions, that sort of situation. All of them are probably struggling in some way or another. So we need to identify which ones are struggling, and we can do this literally through symptomology. Most time, you can interpret what the body is saying through the symptoms that you're experiencing, modify your diet, take targeted supplements to support the pillars in the ways that they need to be supported, and find massive symptom relief. This is why in my one-to-one coaching programs, I'm able to achieve like absurdly good improvements in symptom relief, like very rapidly. So if somebody comes to me, I actually had a client, so I'll tell you this is a case study. So we call him T. So T came to me with these type of gut problems, SIBO-like presentation, bloating, gas, tendency towards diarrhea, digestive issues, very like not tolerating very many foods. And he talked to the mainstream doctors, and they said, okay, yeah, it's a SIBO, like here's some antibiotics. And he's like, that is not what I want to do. That doesn't sit right with me. That doesn't feel like the right approach. So we spoke for a little bit. We did like an initial consultation, and I said like, this is what I think is going on. This is the root cause of the problems. So we analyzed the root cause. We got to the root of the problem, and then I'm like, okay, so with this root cause in hand and understanding how this is going to affect what's happening in your gut, and now looking at your current symptom presentation, we can see which of your 5 pillars are weak, and we can support these strategically through dietary changes and through targeted supplementation. We implement these changes. And I kid you not, right? 2 days later, I message him, say like, how are you doing from the changes? And he said, my gut has improved 80%. He had this like, this is very characteristic of SIBO, like this big pregnant belly, you know, belly sticking out like a man looking pregnant, right? He said within 2 days of implementing these changes, flat belly, you know, just like that. And that's simply, this isn't healing, right? This isn't healing. This is symptom management. Healing is where we have restored the function of the pillar. So stomach acid is now being produced correctly. Digestive enzymes are now being produced correctly. Motility is now signaling correctly. But in the meantime, while we're in the symptom management phase, we can implement targeted dietary and some supplemental changes to improve the symptomology like super quick, you know? So in a program of coaching with me, focusing on the physical side of these things, it's like we get you to a really good point of I call it symptom management. So you're technically not healing because you're still leaning on the protocol that you're doing. You're still leaning on the restrictive diet. You're still leaning on the supplements. You're still leaning on the external factors from your own body that you need to maintain health. But it still makes you feel a hell of a lot better, you know? You still have less symptoms. You have less bloating. You have improved digestive capacity, like you feel better, which is where a lot of the benefits are. But it's not healing. This is not healing at this stage. This is symptom management. But I will say the caveat to this is one of the best things you can do to heal in the long run is to manage your symptoms in the short term without suppressing the symptoms through medication. So say for example, we use the stomach acid example again. Say for example, your stomach acid is low and you're having SIBO as an adaptive response. The adaptive response is only going to support you to digest the protein to such an extent. Whereas if we are able to re-enable the stomach acid production or support it with, say, like betaine HCl or food combining the meals properly, various different factors depending on your situation. So we boost this stomach acid. Now you're able to absorb your proteins better. You're able to absorb all your vitamins and minerals better. That's going to have a massive positive knock-on effect on all of your other symptom presentations of CFS, MS, all these other problems. And all of the symptoms that are associated with SIBO, so bloating, gas, food intolerances, they go away because it's not needed anymore. The adaptive response isn't adaptive, so it goes away because there is no adaptation that needs to be met. So Liz says, what is your #1 go-to for more bile production? So it's going to be like a chicken egg situation in this. So more bile production, the best thing you can do is eat more fat. If there's no demand for extra bile, your body won't make more. So if you want more bile to be produced, eat more fat. It's a pretty logical cycle. If you want to stimulate the amount of bile that's being produced, we need to create more need for bile. And the function of bile is to digest fat. So if you increase fat intake, your bile production will go hand in hand with that. This is a process that requires a lot of metabolic energy, and the liver has to work really hard to do this. So doing anything we can to support liver function would be really helpful as well. As I said, the 5 pillars is a course that I have, 5 pillars to heal your gut. I have a video on each of these functions: stomach acid, digestive enzymes, bile, motility, mucosa. And they go through strategies of how to identify if the pillar is broken, what we can do to support that pillar temporarily. So this is kind of what you're talking about now here, Liz. How can we support the bile to improve its function in the short term? And we can do that through like a high-fat diet, but we have to look long-term. What is causing the bile to not be recycled properly, to have a low output? And this usually indicates poor liver function, and there's this process that occurs in the gut. So when the bile is released through the liver, through the gallbladder into the small intestine, this is how we detoxify ourselves. This is the primary method for fat-soluble detoxification in the body. So this is xenoestrogens and plastics, this is mycotoxins, this is metals, this is the most common toxins are fat-soluble, and this is how your body gets rid of them. And there's a process that occurs where the bile acids are broken down by these beneficial bacteria that we have in our gut. And this is again what happens in SIBO, right? Say you're exposed to mold. This is why mold almost always results in a SIBO. First of all, the mycotoxins kill the beneficial bacteria in the gut, so we have an imbalance. Great, that predisposes you to SIBO. But then as an adaptive response, the organisms that are good at breaking down mycotoxins, the organisms that are good at pulling the mycotoxins out of the bile and then removing them from your body, so these are things like the bile-loving species, so things like Bilophilia and I don't know how to pronounce it actually, the Disulfobrio type organisms. They like to eat these bile acids, and they're doing this as an adaptive response. So the common treatment method for this is stop eating fat, so then you stop releasing your bile. But that's just causing toxins to back up in your body, and it's very counterintuitive, and you're not addressing the root cause, which is the toxicity in this case. So always try to look at what's happening in the digestive system as an adaptive response. You need to shift this lens of looking at SIBO as just kill the SIBO. It's like the SIBO is adaptive every single time. And I know you think you're the exception to the rule. You are not. It's like 1 in 100 that is the exception to this rule. And it's not you. There is an adaptive response in some way. Your composition of your microbiome serves you almost exceptionally every single time. Karen says, I assume you had to identify the root cause, which if we assume is emotional, once that is resolved, do you still have to implement physical changes? Really, really good question, and it's a perfect segue onto what I wanted to cover next. So this is one reason that the SIBO doesn't work, and I'll talk about this interesting dynamic that I see between individuals and practitioners. Being a practitioner myself and also talking with a lot of practitioners, this is a really interesting dynamic that I see. So we're going to get a bit woo-woo and a bit spiritual now. So if you're not into that and that's not where you're at in your healing journey, you're probably not going to be receptive to what we're about to say. But this is where the results are. So if you don't feel like this is something you're open to, this is probably why you're not getting the results. So let's look at this area of the body where SIBO is present, right? This is the solar plexus chakra. So this is I can't really show you. This is like the area above your belly button, but below your diaphragm. This is like the upper digestive system. And from an energetic perspective, this is really connected to self-confidence, self-worth, strong boundaries, being able to say no, and this like internal resiliency, this ability to digest the experience of your life. So what I see happen, and this really fits in this dynamic of SIBO, is somebody gets SIBO, they go to the practitioner, and they just say like, oh, I'm in despair, just like fix me, just tell me what to do, I'll do whatever you'd like. I'll take all your antibiotics, I'll take your herbs, I'll just tell me whatever I have to do and I'll just do it. And it's in this really disempowered victim style energy. And in this case, this is how the SIBO in this case is present, because the SIBO is eating the emotion of self-empowerment, because you don't own it. you aren't taking responsibility of your life, of your health situation. You aren't taking direction. You aren't empowered. You aren't confident. You aren't establishing boundaries. And if you don't channel this energy consciously, so if you're not expressing this energy into the world through your ego identity, through how you express yourself in the world, the energy has to go somewhere. It cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. And if you're not expressing it, these organisms are breaking it down for you inside your gut. And as soon as if you switch gears, if you say, okay, I'm going to take responsibility for this situation, and I see this when people talk to me, they're either in one of two camps. They're like, I'm a victim, I need you to save me, everything's going wrong, I can't figure this out, like, I'm in despair, just fix it. Just tell me what to do and I'll fix it. And this is very disconnected from self-responsibility. And you never heal in this energy. It does not happen. You cannot take responsibility for your own energy, you will not heal. Because the symptom is that the actual SIBO itself is present because it's eating this energy for you. And you going in and trying to kill this is you further trying to disidentify yourself from this energy. So if you're going to try and do that and work with a practitioner, I guarantee you it will fail. It fails every single time. But if you go to a practitioner and you say, yeah, I'm empowered, I'm on board with being receptive to what you have to say, but I'm going to think this through and do research on my own and really take responsibility for the situation that you're currently in, and not come to a practitioner saying like, save me, I'm desperate, just fix me, I'll do whatever you say. You're saying, I really am on board with this healing process, I want to take your insight, I'm interested in this information, and I'm going to think it through, I'm going to digest it myself, and I'm going to take my own empowered action based on what you say. That is a recipe for healing. And the people that do that heal every single time. You know, if you're willing to take responsibility for the root cause wherever it is, you will heal, inevitably. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes there's physical and emotional stuff happening at the same time. In fact, it's very rare that I see someone with a physical problem that doesn't have an emotional problem. It does occasionally happen that we have someone with an emotional problem and not a physical problem, but that's not common. So you have to look at this on both of these levels. So if in your case, root cause wise, the problem is purely emotional or is rooted in the emotion, you can do all of the protocols you want. You can listen to my 5 pillars course and implement every single thing I teach, and it will not work because that's not where the problem is. You have to focus where the problem is. If you really want to rule out physical problems, the 5 pillars course is absolutely the place that you go, because it helps you understand what the function of each of the 5 pillars is and what you can do to support them. And if you're supporting them all and you're still not seeing symptom improvement, then certain emotions are going to come up. You're going to feel frustrated, you're going to feel angry, you're going to feel maybe resentful towards me because you were expecting me to solve this problem for you. This theme of emotional undercurrent that's coming up is exactly the emotions that are perpetuating the situation that you're currently in. So it's always adaptive. The organisms that are present in your gut, they're not parasitic, they're not a mistake. They're working for you. They're literally like this army of loving organisms that care so deeply for you that they're doing everything they can to give you the highest level of health and wellness that you can. And you perceive them as the enemy and you try to attack them and kill them, and then you feel worse. No brainer, right? So what do we do instead? How do we change this narrative? How do we get a more effective treatment protocol? How do we get a more effective approach to healing a problem like this? Number one, as I stated, root cause. You have to figure out what the root cause is and heal it. If it's physical, if it's a toxicity, if it's amalgams in your teeth, if it's like for example, like a physical hernia, like the organs in your digestive system aren't sitting in the right place, fix that. You know, that's physical, you have to fix it. But if that's not where the root cause is, if it isn't an environmental thing, if the gut physiologically is in the right place and it's an emotion, that is where you need to focus. That's where your effort needs to go, and that's where you're going to get the best results. So you first have to understand this is a very unique problem to you. This is a very individualized thing, and this is why so many people fail on these treatment protocols, is because they're generic. They're generic in their approach. They're not tailored to the root cause. And that's sort of like, by definition, is the problem. There's only so much you can provide generically in a very specified situation. So identify your root cause. If you don't know what your root cause is, let me know. I will help you figure that out. Figure out what your root cause is. Work on the root cause as your number one priority. In the meantime, while you're working on the root cause, so say for example, you say, okay, the root cause is emotional. I know that I'm disempowered. I know that I've got this victimhood energy and I feel out of touch with my personal power, and that's the root cause of these problems. That was the root cause of my problems. And it's like, okay, that's the root cause. But it's like, okay, but I'm also being exposed to mycotoxins, and I know I have low stomach acid, and I know I have poor digestive enzymes, and I know my bile is really thick and full of toxins and sluggish. What can I do in the meantime to support that? And it's quite interesting that if the root cause of this emotionally is victimhood, disempowerment, being able to take action, take empowered action and responsibility for the situation in your physical approach is not only supporting your body on a physical level, so you're supporting the pillar that's weakened, you're supporting the detox process. You're also moving yourself into energetic alignment with resolving the emotional root cause under these problems too. So it's got this really cool like intertwined, like the physical and the emotional are like twined together in the action that you take. So this doesn't mean like, oh, you're working on the root cause, don't do anything else, you know? Do what you can to relieve your symptoms. And as I said, if it is one of these, so I'll tell you, it is one of these 5 pillars that has a dysfunction. Figure out which one it is on a physiological level, support whichever physiological function needs support through changing the diet, through, this is the phase where like dietary restriction comes in, low FODMAP diet, GAPS diet, targeted supplementation, digestive enzymes, bile, motility agents, things to help heal the gut lining, probiotics, things like that. So whatever you need to do at that stage to provide symptom relief is actually going to help, even if the root cause is emotional. Providing yourself symptom relief by working in alignment with your body's natural intelligence is only going to be beneficial. It's only going to be helpful, and the action of the energy that you take is actually going to help with healing the emotional root cause of that as well. Karen says, intertwined a bit like a DNA strand, perhaps. I think very much like a DNA strand, yes, like a double helix. So they're like spiral together, very, very, very much connected. And they're entwined, and they're not disconnectable. They are so intrinsically linked. I think, yeah, they're absolutely connected. So, but you might not have an emotional root cause to this. It might be a purely physical problem. It's not common, but it does happen. If you have a toxic mold exposure, best thing you can do is move house, change your environment. If you know the root cause of your problems is you have amalgams in your teeth, your number one priority should be removing the mercury from your mouth. So you need to focus on where the root of the problem is. And then while you're working on that, and while that's being consumed by the majority of your focus, support your body however it needs to be supported. So if you're being exposed to mycotoxins, you know, mycotoxins are antibiotic in nature. They're killing your beneficial bacteria, so you should probably be replacing them. And I know that's going to go against what a lot of people say about SIBO. Oh, but SIBO is an overgrowth. SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Why would I take more probiotics? The thing is, probiotics are basically always beneficial. You have to make sure you're using them appropriately, and if you have one of the 5 pillars weakened, so if you're taking probiotics and you have low stomach acid, obviously you have to bear that in mind and be careful about what you're doing, because these natural cleansing mechanisms, the stomach acid, the digestive enzymes, the bile, the motility, these are naturally going to keep the organisms in the right balance. And if they're out of balance, the flora is also going to be correlated to that out of balance. So you have to be mindful in this approach and be careful with what you're doing. This, again, why it's really hard to talk about SIBO and what the actual approach will look like individually for you. Because I can tell you universally, when I'm working with an individual with SIBO, we use probiotics every single time. But that doesn't mean I'm telling you to go and take a probiotic, because you have to look at it in the context of all of the rest of the function of your digestive system. So it's one of those, it's like you definitely need it. In a SIBO case, you definitely need a probiotic, but you have to make sure you're doing it in the right way. And it's like, if you don't do it properly, it can make you worse instead of better. So it's one of those, like, it's really a personally calibrated protocol type thing. So you really require a very bespoke, personalized approach with implementing something like that, especially if you do have a a situation like a SIBO. Something that I've suggested quite broadly, which I think is quite interesting, is you can utilize a probiotic enema even if you have a SIBO situation, and you get all the benefits without any of the risk, because that's where the probiotics are supposed to be. So that is generally quite a very safe way to utilize probiotics, even if you have concerns around a SIBO type situation. So let me give you some actionable tips on actually resolving a situation like this. So first of all, we need that mindset shift. If you can change your perspective from your gut flora being pathogenic and what is keeping you sick and what is wrong with you and what you need to change to feel better, to actually in more closer alignment to reality, an adaptive response that is slaving away every second of every day to make you as healthy as possible, that's a huge mindset shift that you need to make if you want to actually find healing. Because if you're going against your body, your healing is inclusive, it's abundant, it's together. And if you're doing an approach where you're fighting a part of yourself, so you're trying to destroy your gut, you're trying to destroy your gut flora, it's fueling separation, which is not where healing is. Healing is inclusion, it's about coming together. It's gentle, it's soft, it's including in its approach. So if you feel like the approach that you're taking to the situation in your gut is harsh, is aggressive, you're fighting against it, you're on a killing protocol, you're just killing yourself. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're killing your adaptive response to your current environment. So we need to change the environment, change the air you're breathing, change the food you're eating, change the thoughts that you're thinking, the people that you spend time with, and then your gut flora will mirror that. Your gut flora will change directly. So really interesting thing that I've seen a few times is trying to change the microbiome forcefully using something like an FMT, a fecal microbiome transplant. So you basically take stool from a donor, healthy stool, to try and normalize the gut flora levels. The thing is, if you haven't changed the root cause of the problem, your gut flora, as it is an adaptive response, first of all, when you take the FMT, you're going to feel awful because it's these beneficial bacteria are trying to bring you into alignment, so they're going to make you face all the parts of the self that you don't want to see. They're going to boost stomach acid production very rapidly. They're going to make you face all of your unintegrated emotions. They're going to make you see all of the parts of yourself that you don't want to see, and that's going to hurt a lot. It's really going to hurt, and it's going to make you not want to do it anymore because it's very harsh, it's very aggressive, and again, the energy of it is despair, and it's not going to actually give you the results that you want. So you need to shift the environment. You need to shift the perspective. You need to see your gut flora as an adaptive response to where you are and work with it to start to continue to shift it towards a microbiome that is more conducive to a higher level of health. But know that it changes directly correlated or mirrored based on your environmental situation. So if you keep taking a probiotic, or you keep doing, or you do my 5 pillars course and you stay in a moldy house, you're only going to get so far. If you do the 5 pillars course and you keep the amalgams in your teeth, and that's the root cause of your problems, you're only going to get so far. Doesn't mean you're not going to feel better, Once we start providing the right bacteria, and once we reduce, so whenever you're exposed to mercury, so in the dental fillings, your body is going to adapt by increasing levels of candida, because candida likes to eat mercury. So you actually want that to happen as an adaptive response. And then, okay, let's kill the candida because I have a candida overgrowth, and I feel really bad. It's like, well, yes, because now you're being poisoned by mercury. So we can support the microbiome. We can try and shift it towards helping you to adapt to your environment more appropriately, which is going to result in you feeling better, less symptoms, but it's not resolving the root cause. So do what you can to provide your body with immediate symptom relief by modifying your approach, your diet, your supplements, your protocol. But make sure that the primary focus is on resolving the root cause of the problems. And if it's a physical problem, get that fixed. If it's an emotional problem, work on that, resolve that, integrate that. Because if you don't, you will never heal through physical changes alone. And I mean never. And you will go through life like smashing your head against the wall. Bang, bang, bang. I did it for 3-4 years until I opened my mind to the other side, the emotional side of healing. And I worked there, and now I can eat anything I want. I don't have any symptoms. I actually have a bit of bloating recently, but I've been playing with a few different probiotics, so that definitely has something to do with it. And it's a progression, you know? Even when I do get a little bit bloated, even if I do get a few SIBO symptoms, it's like, okay, it's adaptive. How is it adapting to my current environment? And then I look for it. And then I change my environment. I integrate the emotion. I modify something. I support my body in a different way. Symptom goes away every single time. And I see it in myself, I see it in my clients, every single time. It's always adaptive. Your body is smart, your body's intelligent. Stop trying to fight it. Come to it humble, say, what's going on here? How can I work with you instead of against you? And that's where you will find true healing. That's where you'll really find results. So, very different treatment approach for SIBO. The old one just doesn't work. You know, it's an old model, it's too logical, it's too rational, you're not resolving the problem where it's at. Doesn't mean we're not using science, we're absolutely using science. As I said, the 5 pillars is referenced, there's plenty of science backing up all of the claims that I make in that course. The workbook itself, I believe, actually has direct references in it, so we're not going against science here. Science definitely plays its part. But we have to look at it holistically, we have to look at it as a full spectrum problem and provide a full spectrum solution. Because if you miss even one element, it's going to sabotage your results. And I really want you to get the best results possible. That's why I'm in this game, you know. I do this as my job. It's important that I can pay my bills, I can eat food, I can buy my supplements, things like that. I can go to therapy, I do all these things. But I'm really in this for you. I'm in this for your results because I suffered my life was just unbearably awful for years, and I don't want anybody to have to experience what I did. So take it from me, open your mind, solve the problem at the root, do what you can to make yourself feel better in the short term, and work with your body instead of against it. Sue says, if you have mold and mercury fillings, what should be treated first? I would definitely get out of the mold. It's a lot easier to get out of the mold than it is to get your mercury fillings removed. Definitely mold first. I would say if mold is a problem, mold is always #1 priority. Relocate is your best option. Do you have any questions before I finish up? I'm just going to clear my throat a little bit. I'm getting a little bit tickly. Just had a few coaching calls in a row, and now doing a live obviously is it's a bit hard on the throat. So let me know if you have any questions just before we finish up here. Excuse me. So yeah, as I said, give me any of your questions. So a couple of details just before I finish up. 5 Pillars course, I'll give you some more information about this. Let me know if you're interested in it and I'll send you a link. It is a 7-part series with a Q&A session that we had closer to the event. Walks you through the functions of stomach acid, digestive enzymes, bile, motility, mucosa. Talks about how we can support the microbiome with probiotics. And it's looking at the gut and health in the big picture. So what do all of the things that you learned in the course actually look like when you apply them to your life? Like tangibly, what does it actually look like? The Q&A session on the end was really fun as well. Lots of really good questions, some stuff about SIBO and stuff like that comes up, so some good questions in there as well. And it also comes with a workbook as well. I think it's pretty hefty sized workbook. Don't recall off the top of my head, but I think it's between 20 and 30 pages. It's got printable resources. It's got ways for you to discover which of the pillars is struggling based on symptomology, what you can do for immediate symptom relief, and what you can do for long-term reversal of that dysfunction in that pillar. Yeah, it's our flagship course. It's the most important course out there because all disease begins in the gut. And if you read my email sequence that I sent out recently, you'll know all gut disease starts with one of the 5 pillars. So Nitu says, did you cure your SIBO? So again, that feeds into the narrative that SIBO is actually a problem and something that needs to be fixed. SIBO is an adaptive response, and when I enter an environment, when I would like that adaptive response to kick in, it does, and I'm grateful for it. So if I went into a moldy building, for example, I would probably have SIBO flare up as a symptom, and that's actually a good thing. You know, it's adaptive, it's a beneficial response. It's my body surviving the best in the environment that it's exposed to. Sarah wants to join me on the live, so let's let her in and see if she has a question. Oh, let's see, we're just adding Sarah. Let's see if she wants to join, or whether it was a misclick. Let me know if you have any more questions. I really like to answer your questions. Okay, it was a mistake, Sarah didn't actually want to join. Let me know if you have questions because I need to know where your gaps in your knowledge are. If I know where the gaps in your knowledge are, it helps me to help you, to provide you with the insight that you need to get the results that you want. Sarah says misclick. No worries, Sarah. No problem at all. So just hanging out for another 30 seconds, just to see if I get any more questions, because I want to make sure that you really understand, you really get this, and you really understand what to do moving forward. So I'll just wait for another 10, 15 seconds. If you have any questions, just let me know. Let me know, while I'm waiting for some questions, let me know, first of all, if you watched this far. If you watched this far, let me know. It's quite impressive to watch this. I just made a post earlier today about my total view time on YouTube. I've had over 500 hours of viewership from just on YouTube in the last year. Mind-blowing to me, you know? 500 hours, it's like what? 24 hours in a day, times that by 100, 240, that's like 200. So it would take one person to just sit on my YouTube channel for 200 days straight, 24 hours a day, to achieve that level of content. So I'm glad you enjoy my stuff. So Sarah says, if you can't have your house addressed for mold, how can you take steps to address it? I'm going to give you maybe a bit of a harsh reality here, but it's like, that is a mindset where you're stuck and you're not gonna heal there. You know, if it's an environment that's not conducive to your health, either you need to move to a different place or you need to properly remediate the house. If you don't change the environment, your body's adaptive response to that environment will remain the same. Your symptoms will persist, and it's adaptive for them to do that. She says, I'm on a small island where there are no mold experts. So as I work through a mold protocol, I'm wondering how to address the house. I would, depending on your current level of health, if you're at the point where it's really debilitated you and you have like histamine intolerance, mold chemical sensitivities, strong levels of dysbiosis, big issues, I really would say the thing that you're measuring right now is you're trying to weigh up financially what living this life is worth. Because it's like, do I spend money to really try to resolve this properly, or do I try to sort of get along and like shorthand manage it and maybe do it properly but maybe not, and perpetuate this situation? I would say you are an abundant being. Your life is meant to be lived, and staying stuck in this situation doesn't serve you and it doesn't serve anybody else. You need to look at this from a solutions-oriented perspective, and because right now, the energy that I'm feeling from the words that you're saying is, I want to do it, but I can't. I want to heal, but I can't. There's an obstacle that I can't overcome, which ties in with this energy of not being tapped into your inner resourcefulness. You are an infinite being that is able to achieve and do anything that you want. Set it as your intention to find somewhere safe to live and make it happen. And it might not happen like this, you know? I set my intention and I still had to stay in mold for two years, and then I moved to a moldy house for another 2 years, you know? But that was my intention. I am resourceful. I will get myself out of this environment. I will be somewhere that is not only safe, but actually conducive to my highest levels of health and authentic self-expression. So set that as your goal and don't settle for less. Doesn't mean you're going to figure it out overnight, but don't try to set the bar lower than the bare minimum, which is an abundant environment that is fully conducive to your highest self, your highest levels of health, your highest levels of authentic self-expression. You are resourceful. I believe in you. The universe is working with you to try and give you an environment, a life that is beneficial for you to enjoy, and for everybody else. You have a gift, you have a talent, you have something to bring to the world, and it's being inhibited by your state of ill health. So if we can do everything possible to get you where you're supposed to be, it's going to be of benefit to everybody. Sarah says, not big issues as doing well on healing protocols, so looking for solutions for the house as we can't move, but remediating areas that we feel may have caused the issue. I would be really careful, because I see people that I've worked with and in groups and things like that, where they don't fix the problem properly, and then they stay stuck in this cycle of feeling like they're healing but not really making the progress that they know is possible, for years, for decades, you know? And it's like, you have to ask yourself, what is your life worth? Like, every day that you spend in ill health is a day you're never getting back. Every day that you spend less than your full potential is a day that you're never going to get back. And I know it can be expensive, and I know it can be inconvenient, and I know it's frustrating, and I know it makes you just want to rip your hair out. I've been there. But healing is what it is, not what you would like it to be. And I know how you can be angry at me for saying these things. You can be frustrated. I would be too in your situation. But the truth is, you need to be in a clean environment if you want to truly heal. I am now in a different country, in a different house. I think I own one t-shirt from the house that I had that was moldy. That's it. That's the only item that I own. Everything that I own, like physically, tables, clothes, everything, I own one thing. And then obviously like birth certificate, things like that. But where I can, I got replacement copies, you know? The single best thing you can do is eliminate your exposure. Reduce your exposure, minimize it, just get it to zero. That's the best thing you're going to be able to do. I've seen so many people stall their progress by trying to remediate. I just move. For me, it's just like, your life is valuable. It's the most precious thing you have. Your health is so important. Being ill holds you back from really living the life that you deserve. So just don't negotiate with that, you know? The best thing you can do is get into a different environment. If it means moving, if it means uprooting, if it means like whatever it means, you need to make a change, because life is so bright on the other end of healing these serious chronic health problems. And don't get me wrong, I'm still not 100%, right? Still have issues. I'll still always have issues. It's part of my deal being a healer, you know? I need health problems so that I have things to talk about. It's kind of my deal with being here. But not being debilitated, not having food sensitivities, being able to like exercise and enjoy myself and see my progress tangibly is worth all the money in the world. It's worth all of the effort in the world. So give it all the money and all the effort in the world, you know, because you deserve it. You deserve to have a life that you absolutely love. Don't settle for less than that. So no more questions. I'm gonna have to finish up because my voice is going. I'm gonna have to go and give myself a little throat massage, I think. If you have any more questions, even after this live, so at the end of this video, just leave them as a comment. I literally respond to every single comment. So if you give me like a good question and you're really like actually interested in the answer that I have to give you, I will get back to your question with a full length answer. And if I feel it needs a video, I'll even make a video. Okay. So Karen says yes, love it. Sarah says thank you, William. You're most welcome. I understand where you are, and believe me, you can heal. I believe in you. You can do it. So that's everything from me. I'm going to go and rest my throat. I'll see you soon. Ciao. Have a lovely day. Don't settle for less.